Tonight, U.S. forces are set to begin a blockade of Iran's ports as talks over the Mideast war break down.
I don't understand how blockading the strait is going to somehow push the Iranians into opening it.
With tensions ratcheting up and oil shipments frozen, CBC News is on the dangerous waters of the Strait of Hormuz.
This is the edge of Iran's weapon of mass disruption.
Plus, on the eve of 3 federal by-elections, Mark Carney has a majority government in his sights.
There's a sizable minority who are going to be deeply unhappy come Monday.
What's at stake for the government and the opposition? And Dan Levy has a new Netflix show.
Oh my God.
But he'll never forget what got him here.
I just want to tell stories about members of my community that feel honest and flawed and clear.
The Schitt's Creek star reflects on his career so far and his work with the great Catherine O'Hara.
From CBC News, this is The National with Ian Hennemanzing.
Ceasefire talks between Iran and the U.S. have collapsed, with Iran's grip on the Strait of Hormuz still firm. And now the U.S. has announced its own blockade in the Persian Gulf, targeting Iran. As of 10 a.m. Monday, the U.S. military says ships going to and from Iran will be stopped. Donald Trump vowing an all-or-nothing blockade that prevents even Iranian oil from reaching markets. This after his vice president and top envoys left talks with Iran empty-handed. Katie Simpson now on Washington's latest move to pressure Iran as the timer on a shaky ceasefire continues to count down.
The backlog to travel through the Strait of Hormuz, it is about to get worse. The U.S. says it will start blocking all ships heading to or leaving from Iranian ports starting Monday morning at the direction of the U.S. president.
As you know, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, we have a blockade going into effect. That'll be 10 o'clock tomorrow. Other nations are working so that Iran will not be able to sell oil. And that will be very effective.
Iran had allowed some vessels to use the shipping route, but fell far short of its promise to lift its own blockade as part of the ceasefire agreement. The American action comes after peace talks hosted by Pakistan failed to reach a breakthrough. The U.S. blaming Iran, saying there can only be a deal if Iran gives up its nuclear ambitions.
That is our final and best offer. We'll see if the Iranians accept it.
The Iranians blame the U.S., saying they don't trust American negotiators. Initially, they left the door open to more talks. Diplomacy never ends, said this foreign ministry spokesman, and diplomats must do their duty in all circumstances. After word spread of the U.S. blockade, the tone hardened. They vowed to fight back and accused the U.S. of shifting goalposts.
I don't care if they come back or not. If they don't come back, I'm fine.
Global energy markets are already under intense pressure, with Trump's strategy being questioned at home.
But I don't understand how blockading the strait is going to somehow push the Iranians into opening it. I don't get the connection there.
Gas prices have more than doubled in the U.S., with Trump offering little confidence that will change anytime soon.
Do you believe the price of oil and gas will be lower before the midterm elections?
I hope so. I mean, I think so. It could be. It could be or the same or maybe a little bit higher, but it should be around the same.
After peace talks broke down and President Trump announced his plan to impose a new blockade, oil prices jumped more than 7% to above $100 a barrel.
Hey, Katie, time appears to be running out for the U.S. and Iran to reach a deal.
Yeah, the ceasefire, if it continues to hold, it is set to expire April 22nd, in just over a week. Neither side has said yet what happens if there isn't a deal by then.
Katie Simpson in Washington. The diminishing prospect of peace is dire news for thousands of sailors on the hundreds of ships trapped by the conflict. Megan Williams gives us a rare look from the Strait of Hormuz itself, where the blockade is affecting the local as well as the global economy.
This is the edge of Iran's weapon of mass disruption, the Strait of Hormuz, 35 kilometers wide, where once a fifth of the world's oil flowed through. That was before Iran shut it down.
Now ships pass on Iran's terms. These days, the only things moving freely here are the dolphins. Among the stranded, more than 400 oil tankers and more than a dozen carrying liquefied natural gas. Iran says they'll need its military's permission to pass, and reportedly to pay a toll of as much as $2 million a vessel. U.S. officials say Iran has mined these waters and lost track of where they are, so the tankers sit and wait. Some 20,000 seamen stranded on board for more than 6 weeks. Here in Hasab, at the tip of Oman, just across from Iran, traditional wooden dhows sit idle too. It's peak season, but no tourists, who should be out in the fjords or zipping along in speedboats. Instead, everything here feels paused, on the water and on the shore.
And the hard questions remain. If there is no deal with Iran, will the world have to learn to live with Iranian control of these waters? Megan Williams, CBC News, the Strait of Hormuz.
Israel's prime minister visited his country's troops in South Lebanon to congratulate them on their invasion. We're pushing away the danger of anti-tank fire and also dealing with the missiles, he said, adding there's more work to do. Israel is expected to meet for ceasefire talks with Lebanon's government on Tuesday. Since the latest war with Iran began, Israel has killed more than 2,000 people in Lebanon and demolished villages. It says to create a buffer against the threat of Iranian-backed Hezbollah militants. Donald Trump is lashing out at the Pope tonight, referring to him as a, quote, very liberal person and a critic of the MAGA movement.
We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo.
Pope Leo has spoken out directly against the Trump administration's policies and recently about the religious language some officials have used to justify the war against Iran. By this time tomorrow night, there could be a majority government for Canada as people will be voting in 3 by-elections tomorrow. And as Rafi Boudjikanian lays out, after 5 MPs cross the floor of the Commons, the Liberals only need 1 win for a majority.
A stop for maple syrup, a Quebec spring campaign classic. But even a win in this tight by-election race in Terrebonne could be bittersweet for the Bloc Québécois. It might not stop Prime Minister Mark Carney from securing a majority government on Monday. He's just 1 seat shy, and there are 2 other races, both in Toronto Liberal strongholds.
Stability is very important, and minority governments bring a bit of instability.
We don't seem to be able to get along together in a minority kind of situation.
Bonsoir, chers libéraux.
That minority edged closer to a majority late last week when Marilyn Glado became the latest of 5 opposition MPs to defect to the Liberals.
I look forward to serving on this team at this pivotal time.
Like her, most fled Conservative ranks.
Our caucus unity has been strong, and when you see the teamwork that we generally have, it's actually quite effective across the country. We have people who now represent from Windsor to Newfoundland, districts that historically have not been Conservative for decades.
Shuv Majumdar says his colleagues who crossed the aisle could face backlash from constituents.
It doesn't serve our democracy well to have this type of bait and switch happening.
Some of that anger may stretch beyond the opposition, says this pollster.
So there is a sizable minority who are going to be deeply unhappy come Monday if the government does get that majority and does it in the way that they have. That uncomfortable feeling won't overcome the desire for a sense of certainty and stability.
Sources have told CBC News the Liberals are speaking to 9 more MPs about possibly crossing the floor. The government for now is only saying it wants all the help it can get to push forward its agenda, including from Conservatives.
There is some dissatisfaction on that side of the House. I don't think that's any secret. Canadians who live in Conservative ridings are looking at their Member of Parliament and saying, what are you doing to be part of the solution?
Conservatives say MPs who cross the floor should have to face by-elections, a position even Marilyn Glado has held before she switched teams.
And Rafi, you'll be in Terrebonne tomorrow night for our election coverage. What are you expecting?
It could be a pretty long night. Terrebonne was one of the last ridings to be called in last year's election, and the Liberals defeated the bloc by a single vote. It was only a Supreme Court decision that sent voters there back to the polls. Plus, there's another long ballot protest. Electoral reform advocates flooding ballots there with dozens of candidates.
Rafi Boudjikanian tonight in Ottawa. Thank you. Let's bring in Chief Political Correspondent Rosemary Barton. And Rosie, as the results come in tomorrow night, what are you going to be watching for?
You know, primarily, of course, Ian, to see if the Liberals can pull off a majority and by how many. Those Toronto ridings are Liberal strongholds for sure. In Terrebonne, though, it's a much closer race with the Bloc Québécois. So winning all three of them would give them more breathing room. But Ian, we can't understate, I don't think, how unusual a way this is to get a majority, to say the least. A handful of defections and by-elections that will or could give Canada its first majority government since 2019, and meaning an election in the near future is very unlikely. Liberals say, though, that they would like to have a more comfortable majority rather than just a couple of seats. So sources say there are still conversations with other MPs who might be willing to cross the floor in the days ahead.
If the Liberals secure a majority, how are things going to change in Ottawa?
Yeah, I mean, quite simply, a majority makes it easier to govern. You can push through your parliamentary agenda more aggressively. It means you have the majority in House of Commons committees, where so much of that important legislative work gets done. When I spoke to the Liberal House Leader, though, Stephen McKinnon, he says that he's going to continue to reach across the aisle to try to work with opposition parties, even if it's not needed. So we'll see what that looks like in practice. And while it will make Pierre Poilievre's job as leader of the official opposition more challenging, there are some benefits here for him too. A majority means he has time before an election to turn things around. He can potentially push harder on the government on issues without the fear of an election. But there are still questions about Mr. Poilievre's leadership and whether he can hang on if indeed he were to lose more MPs to the Liberals.
Rosemary Barton in Ottawa tonight. And Rosie will host special coverage of the by-election results beginning tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific on CBC News Network. Quebec's next premier has been chosen. The ruling Coalition Avenir Québec voted in its new party leader today, who will soon be sworn in for the top job. As Natalia Viktor explains, the new premier will try to turn around the party's sinking popularity before the fall election.
Welcomed by thundering applause, Christine Fréchette took to the stage as Quebec's next premier.
Vous avez voté pour un autre style de leadership.
You have voted for another style of leadership, she said. This is the first time the Coalition Avenir Québec, or CAQ, has a leader other than François Legault. Fréchette, a former business executive, held various high-profile positions with the CAQ, first as Minister of Immigration, then as Minister of Economy. She says as premier, she's looking towards the future and is focused on unifying the party.
Alors, au travail! Merci!
Fréchette is taking on the job after a 3-month-long leadership race, launched after Legault announced his resignation earlier this year. That followed a series of resignations from the party, 11 MNAs, including some cabinet ministers. Polling numbers were also plummeting to some of the lowest levels the party has ever seen.
His numbers were so poor that many Quebec voters were not listening to what he had to say. He could have come with the best intentions and the best plan going forward in the next election, but when voters are not listening, usually you're doomed.
Aujourd'hui, je vous fais mes adieux.
Legault got emotional as he bid farewell to voters, saying that it's time for the CAQ family to stand on its own 2 feet. But some say it'll be an uphill battle to bring back the party's popularity.
Well, I think that it's a party that's fighting for its survival in a way. This is a party that is looking for, I would say, new ideas, but also a party that needs fresh leadership, try to turn the page on the Legault years.
In just a few months, Fréchette will be running yet another campaign, an October election where Quebec identity and sovereignty will be major ballot issues. Natalia Viktor, CBC News, Montreal.
An update now to a story we first told you about Friday night. All 8 people rushed to hospital after a chlorine gas exposure at a public pool in Victoria have now been released. More than 100 people were at the Crystal Pool and Fitness Centre at the time of the incident. BC's Environment Ministry says the chlorine gas was released as 2 pool chemicals were being mixed. Officials say the facility is now safe, but the investigation continues. A New Brunswick woman says a Shoppers Drug Mart pharmacy gave her the wrong drug and she ended up in the emergency room. The medication mix-up is exposing gaps in a system meant to keep consumers safe. Rosa Marcatelli from our Go Public team investigates how easy it can be to get the wrong medication and what's being done to protect patients.
It should have been a routine pharmacy pickup. Instead, Marissa Dawson says it turned into a months-long ordeal that landed her in the ER.
Like I said, completely lethargic, and I was very faint. I couldn't move.
Her local pharmacy gave her blood pressure pills instead of her new allergy medication. She unknowingly took the wrong drug for 6 months. The error between 2 similar-sounding medications was only caught by a nurse in the ER.
I was scared.
Dawson says no pharmacist spoke to her when she picked up the prescription, a counseling step that could have prevented the error. Melissa Sheldrick knows the stakes.
Just a beautiful, healthy boy who had a fantastic future ahead of him.
Her 8-year-old son Andrew died in 2016 after a different pharmacy gave him the wrong medication. She's now a leading advocate for medication safety.
It's really frightening to know and to think about how powerful medications are and the impact that they have on our bodies.
More than 800 million prescriptions are dispensed in Canada every year, but the number of errors is unclear, partly because not all provinces report to the national database yet. Sheldrick says pharmacist workload and fatigue are part of the problem.
It really is strengthening those systems around them in order to support them with dispensing medications.
Dawson calls that a good start. She's switched pharmacies since the medication mix-up.
Now, when I pick up a prescription, I am double-checking everything.
Loblaw Companies Limited, which owns Shoppers Drug Mart, says what happened to Dawson was avoidable human error. It says it's since reviewed safety protocols with pharmacy staff. Rosa Marcatelli, CBC News, Toronto.
Our Go Public stories come from you. If you have a tip for the team to investigate, send an email to gopublic@cbc.ca. Many tributes tonight to the legendary Indian singer Asha Bhosle after a career that spanned 8 decades. Singing in several Indian languages, she was a cultural force in her country for generations and was nominated for 2 Grammys. People gathered to honor her memory, and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said she had touched countless hearts around the world. Asha Bhosle was 92. After 16 years, Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán has been voted out of power.
This election was about clash of civilizations. Either you belong in a Western-type democracy or you belong in an Eastern-type dictatorship.
The implications for Hungary, the European Union, and beyond. The Artemis II crew is home and having a little fun.
This is the furthest I've been away from Reed in a long time.
What they're sharing about their mission. And a former Edmonton Oiler gets a blast from the past.
I hope I'm the best NHL player ever.
We're back into some Easter celebrations in Ukraine this morning. Both Ukrainians and Russians celebrated Orthodox Easter this weekend, but a ceasefire deal to mark the occasion was quickly broken. Ukraine accused Russia of more than 2,000 violations during the 32-hour truce. Russia alleged nearly as many. Hungarian voters have turned out in record numbers to remove the government of Viktor Orbán after 16 years in power. In Budapest tonight, Briar Stewart heard from people who saw this election as a stark choice between Europe's Western values and Russian tyranny.
The emotion erupted as the roaring crowd along the Danube River understood it was not just an opposition victory, but a landslide.
This is 16 years in the making. We made it happen. We made it happen.
Viktor Orbán, once considered Hungary's strongman, conceded defeat and congratulated Peter Magyar. A one-time loyalist of Orbán's Fidesz party now celebrated for his part in taking down the government. You gave us the authority to build a functioning and humane homeland, he said. During the campaign, Orbán had tried to convince voters that he was the only one who could guarantee peace. He warned that a vote against him could result in the country being dragged into the war in Ukraine. Orbán had blocked and slowed European support for Kyiv, aggravating an already fractious relationship with the EU. His friendly relations with Moscow left many uneasy about the path he'd set for Hungary.
This election was about clash of civilizations. Either you belong in a Western-type democracy or you belong in an Eastern-type dictatorship.
I think whatever is happening here in Hungary is definitely not something that should be in a democratic European country.
Now the question is just how will the new government run the country? This political analyst says many voters might not have clear expectations.
They don't really have a checklist of things they want TISA to achieve. I think they just want this to be over and maybe take a deep breath and then see where we're going from there.
For now, it's about marking an historic win, and many here hope the outcome will shift the country's dynamic with the Kremlin. The tens of thousands celebrating here tonight aren't the only ones hoping that Hungary will now be taking a new direction. The EU will be very happy with this result, and the president of the European Commission said that tonight this country has reclaimed its European path. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Budapest.
Fears are mounting about a wave of executions as Iran cracks down on those who pushed for regime change.
It's very important to don't forget them. They are imprisoned for freedom.
Why some are concerned the fragile ceasefire won't help Iranians facing persecution. And Dan Levy's back with a new Netflix series showing off a new dysfunctional family.
Could the two of you for once set your differences aside and make my mother's death easy on me? Stop screaming!
What motivated the Canadian to create what he calls big mistakes? The National breaks down the stories shaping our world. Next.
Congratulations to Darko Rajakovic, his staff.
The Toronto Raptors are returning to the NBA playoffs, but it came down to the final game of the season. The Raps beat the Brooklyn Nets 136-101, clinching a postseason berth for the first time in 4 years. The playoffs begin next Saturday.
His year again. Rory is a rare repeat winner at Augusta.
Golf superstar Rory McIlroy triumphing again at the Masters in Augusta, successfully defending his title by a single stroke. He's now only the fourth golfer in history to claim back-to-back wins at the Masters, on his way to a sixth majors title. 2 days after the crew of Artemis II made their triumphant return to Earth, the excitement is still palpable. The historic 10-day mission to fly around the far side of the moon captivated the world. And as Caroline Bargout reports, it seems to have reignited a collective enthusiasm for the future of space travel.
At Vancouver's H.R. MacMillan Space Center, kids are dreaming of becoming the next generation of astronauts.
I think it would be really cool to just be like floating around.
One day, space travel may take them to Mars.
What will be the coolest part of going to Mars?
Just like looking at the like red dust.
Their love of astronomy inspired by the astronauts of Artemis II, who spoke publicly about their lunar mission on Saturday, but had few words to describe the experience.
I'm afraid to start talking. I have not processed what we just did, and I'm afraid to start even trying.
Canadian Jeremy Hansen, proud of his crew's work and how it was received by the world.
What you saw was a group of people who loved contributing, having meaningful contribution, and extracting joy out of that.
And what we've been hearing is that was something special for you to witness.
This was very much a test mission, flying around the far side of the moon to see if the equipment would work and if humans could survive the journey.
My hope is the inspiration this mission has provided for all of us here on Earth. And no matter where you are, I think this mission has touched each of us as the Apollo missions did back in the 1960s.
The next Artemis mission will focus on docking tests with one or more spaceships made by private companies. Artemis IV will land on the moon, where astronauts will stay for about a week.
I love to see just the progress that we're making and just what sort of things that we would be able to find that we didn't see during the first missions that we already tried.
The Artemis II astronauts have undergone medical assessments. Scientists are also examining the toll space travel has taken on the Orion capsule. Those results will help NASA prepare for the next Artemis journeys. The next one is scheduled for next year. Caroline Bargut, CBC News, Vancouver.
Canadian actor Dan Levy gained global fame through his role on the hit sitcom Schitt's Creek. Now he's taking on a new Netflix project, Big Mistakes. I sat down with him in Toronto to talk about his latest work and his relationship with the late Catherine O'Hara.
I just want to tell stories about members of my community that feel honest and flawed and clear. And I think that's what connects, because if people are able to see themselves honestly reflected in the work that you do, that's where the bonds are built.
Morgan, I need 5 minutes.
Dan Levy likes bringing flawed characters and dysfunctional families to the screen.
And the Emmy goes to Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
Schitt's Creek.
6 years after the record-setting Emmy success of Schitt's Creek, the creator, director, and actor is back with Big Mistakes, a dark, fast-paced comedy on Netflix.
Get out! Just get in the truck. He knows where you live. I don't know where you think you're going. I don't know.
This is such a different thing. It came out of a totally different place.
We might as well just kill ourselves.
All right, come on.
You know, at the CBC, we're pretty proud of you. And I'm just... I met with Levy at the CBC Broadcasting Centre in Toronto, where the legacy of Schitt's Creek is on full display.
Wow. I mean, I've never actually seen it up close. I've only seen it up on the...
So what are you thinking as you see this?
I mean, it's just flooded with the most joyful memories.
We spoke about those memories, the new show, the legendary Catherine O'Hara, and more. As we do this interview, Big Mistakes has not been released to the big bad world out there.
Okay.
Are you nervous?
No. No, and I wasn't nervous with Schitt's Creek either, because I think I really have this philosophy that if you make the thing you wanted to make, that's all you need to do. Other people's outside opinions are fine. They're entitled to them. My job is to make the thing I wanted to make. I would be nervous if for some reason that was compromised in the process and what I put out into the world didn't reflect what I wanted to make. Then I'd be nervous because I had compromised something of myself. But I think as someone who makes things, you know, all you can do is make what you want to make.
That is extraordinarily healthy.
Well, because if you let yourself get swayed by anything out there, it's the judgment, the internet, like, it can tear you apart.
Yeah. So the good news is, at least audience of one. I watched it, I binged it, I laughed at it. It's great.
Great,
thank you. I really like it. And as I watched it, I thought, it's dark.
Yeah.
It's unusual. It's not any formula that I recognize.
Right.
I'm stepping out.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Are you going?
Nobody expects you to be like Natalie. She is an anomaly in this family. Confident, ambitious. She doesn't have to work for that body. But could the two of you, for once, set your differences aside and make my mother's death easy on me? Stop screaming! All right.
I took a long time after Schitt's finished. For myself, for my sanity, for the audience. And I knew that I would make something again, but it's a commitment. I had to give myself some space. I had to figure out what was a story that got me just as excited, that I want to tell for season after season after season. And beyond that, like, I want the audience to be able to take a minute before I ask them to invest in a different version of myself. I think there are two paths that actors take. One is the total rejection of the thing that made them famous, and one is the acknowledgement that what made them famous will always be what made them famous, and you have to come to love that. And I'm on that side. So I never wanted to do that thing where it's like, I have to dispel everything about David Rose. I love it. If that is my legacy, so be it.
Let's talk a bit about the phenomenon of Schitt's Creek. I interviewed you in Vancouver while the series was still being shot.
We have a small-town Canadian sitcom with a pansexual character.
Yes.
And how often has that happened before?
I don't think it's happened in Canadian TV, that's for sure.
It was a fan event. And you know what? There were a lot of people there at the theater who loved you and loved the show, but it was still kind of a cult thing maybe in Canada. And as you point out, there came a time where it became this pop culture phenomenon in the United States, maybe beyond. Did you get a sense of when things shifted?
I think it was COVID. I think sometimes the circumstance of our lives, culturally speaking, lends us to certain things. We look for comfort in times of strife. And I think what the show, unbeknownst to us at the time, like what it offered people during COVID was a safe place. Nothing bad was happening. It was about a family being forced to live in a motel together. A lot of families during COVID were coming back together to sort of pod in a house. I ended up moving back into my parents' house for a little period of time. So I think there was a connection in experience that lent itself to people finding the show and loving the show in a deeper way than they might have expected, or that they might have done had there not been this global pandemic that was happening. It became a life raft for people, I think.
Was your mother and me
I know what I saw.
having an intimate moment?
Unsee that.
Okay.
Ew, I hate to be the one to tell you, but having sex is not just about making children so they can grow up and make you feel bad about having sex.
So this is the CBC Comedy Wall of Fame, which is actually a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, you just look at how many amazing people have come out of this building.
And this part is what I want to talk to you about, the SCTV cast. And for those who don't instantly know, there's your dad, Eugene.
My dad has looked the exact same for 60 years.
Not exact.
Well, the hair is different. Yeah. And I think at one point there was a mustache. But he's aged remarkably well, if I do say so myself, because I'm hoping I inherit those genetics. But the man looks the same.
Yeah.
I would have killed. It's like if I had one of my 3 genie in a bottle wishes would be to have watched Second City in the 70s with this cast.
Yeah.
Bruno, what kept you? Well, I've got a 3-alarm flambe over there. That's what kept me.
I don't care.
Look, Tongue, don't start barking orders at me. I'm a partner in this venture. Oh, excusez-moi.
He's somewhat of a moron.
What was it like getting a chance to work with your dad?
Horrific. Hated every minute of it. And he would say the same. We haven't spoken since.
That's what I thought.
Hate to break it to you. No, it was amazing. How rare to get an opportunity to spend 6 years of your life like creatively collaborating with a family member and living to tell the tale. And I was lucky enough to work with my sister and my dad.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I feel so grateful that we have this show to kind of encapsulate a chapter of our lives that we loved so much. So yeah, he's a lovely, lovely man.
Wow.
I think it's why he has the career that he's had, because I think he's just a joy to work with.
I'd like to talk about Catherine O'Hara a little bit. Her passing must have been very difficult for you.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking. It's such a loss. I think she was such a singular person. She was irreplaceable.
Oh, next step is to fold in the cheese.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
He folds it in.
I understand that, but how do you fold it? Do you fold it in half like a piece of paper and drop it in the pot, or what do you do?
David, I cannot show you everything.
Okay, well, can you show me one thing?
the sort of totality of who she was as a person is almost impossible to put into words because it was a feeling. I think everyone who's encountered Catherine will agree that you can say things about her, but the real legacy of who she was as a person was how she made you feel. And I cherish that now more than ever. I think she was so generous as an actor, as a collaborator. She really believed that it was an even playing field, that ego did not exist in the workplace.
There's a kiss at the end of the rainbow.
And I think the tone that she set on the Schitt's Creek set, along with my dad, who again came from the Second City School of Collaboration. So they really, I think for all of us, made us, many of us who were very young in our careers, made us feel free and open and encouraged to try things. And that's how you grow, that's how you learn. And she was such a curious person that she really almost like extracted that kind of play out of you as an actor, and in my case as a writer and a director and a showrunner. And it is such I feel very lucky to have gotten to be a part of a chapter of her career that she loved so much.
That's an ostrich bag.
There was nobody that could do it like Catherine. And I think, fortunately, her career has left us with so much joy to turn to in a time of such sadness, I think.
I appreciate your willingness to share that. Let's finish with this. With Schitt's Creek and with Big Mistakes, you have created two really rich, interesting characters for yourself. Kind of showcase your talents. Those characters are complex, but one similarity is they're both queer. And the queer community has lauded your work and appreciates your work. And I just wonder how do you feel about that, and what extra responsibility do you feel with that?
The only responsibility I feel is to tell the story of my experience as authentically as possible. I think that's all we want as a gay person. I just want to see myself reflected in culture respectfully. And I think so often we see ourselves reduced or caricatured. So I appreciate the fact that people have loved the work that I've done and the stories that I've told as it's pertained to the, queer community. But really it just comes from a desire to tell stories that I don't often see. So that's just honesty. That's just channeling my life and my experiences and my friends' experiences and kind of really taking advantage of the opportunity to do that.
I was saying to Dan that Big Mistakes kind of reminds me of, and it took me a while to figure this out, but Fleabag. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend it. And then he mentioned to me that the creator of Fleabag, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, tapped him on the shoulder at the Emmys at an event where they were all together, not where Schitt's Creek swept the awards. But anyway, and he went to a party with her afterwards. First of all, what a star. And secondly, can you imagine a collaboration between those two? Maybe that's the next project. Coming up, as Iran-U.S. talks fail this weekend, fears rise inside Iran that human rights might worsen.
The period between arrest, conviction, sentencing, and execution has collapsed.
We'll hear from some who dare to oppose next. Months after Iran's deadly crackdown on protesters, there are concerns the repression may harden under the shadow of war and a countrywide internet blackout.
Under this silence, they can do this crime again and more than before.
Yet amidst the terror of U.S.-Israeli missiles and the Iranian regime's tactics, some remain resilient. Margaret Evans spoke to some about that double threat and why they say human rights must be central to any peace talks.
Tehran, January 2026. On the streets, those daring to raise their voices against one of the world's most repressive regimes. its claim to the title reinforced by what followed. A brutal crackdown killing thousands and thousands more jailed, the fate of many unknown. With warnings from human rights groups that a wave of executions is now underway.
In the course of 7 days, we have had the execution of 10 protesters and dissidents.
Amnesty International says all trials in Iran are systematically unfair, sometimes held in secret, confessions extracted under torture. Now, they're even more so, says Raha Bahraini.
The period between arrest, conviction, sentencing, and execution has collapsed. And this is what we saw with these young teenagers who were executed in recent weeks.
Part of a concerted effort by the Iranian regime, she says, to crush any thought of a return to the streets by protesters. Political dissidents already jailed before the January demonstrations are also being targeted.
Opposition groups, the People's Mujahideen Organization of Iran, as well as Kurdish opposition groups.
Former physics teacher Vahid Baniamarian was executed on April 4th, 2 years after he was sentenced to death for ties to the banned People's Mujahideen, or MEK.
What he did was not deserve to death, even with the rules of this barbaric government.
Hamid Baniamarian, who lives abroad, says he's devastated by his younger brother's death.
I just doing this for myself and for my brother, that and tell that how I love you and how he was loving people of Iran.
His parents are still waiting for the return of their son's body, another form of punishment, he says. He insists any negotiations with Iran on an end to the war must be conditioned on an end to executions.
I don't want anybody experience this terrible thing.
Atanat Da'ami knows Iran's prisons. The human rights activist spent 6.5 years in them, charged with spreading propaganda and insulting the supreme leader. She was released into the arms of her waiting family in 2022, before finding refuge in Canada, from where she still shines a light on those lost in the dark.
I think it's very important to don't forget them. They are in prison for freedom.
And they have faced a double threat, she says. U.S. and Israeli bombs on one side, and a regime bent on revenge on the other.
They shut down the internet, and because of the lack of communication, I'm worried that under this silence, they can do this crime again and more than before.
Da'ami doesn't believe the United States will put human rights on the table in any negotiations for peace.
Of course not. I'm sure that they don't speak about this issue because human rights is not important for them.
Potentially leaving an already opaque system of retribution to grow even darker.
And the nationwide internet blackout mentioned in Margaret's story is now in its 44th day, one of the longest state-imposed shutdowns ever, according to global connectivity monitor NetBlocks. Coming up, a former Edmonton Oiler heads back to school and back in time.
If you were to look at it, it's wrapped with like news clippings, things that were cool at the time.
The memories locked away since the year 2000. Next, in our moment. Well, here's a snapshot of former Edmonton Oiler Tyler Ennis. The picture was captured from a video that has been locked away in a time capsule since the year 2000. Recently, Ennis's elementary school opened the capsule, giving grads a chance to revisit those old memories and mementos. And now that nostalgic experience makes our moment.
When the time capsule was put together, I was in 3rd grade. It was Y2K. If you were to look at it, it's wrapped with like news clippings, things that were cool at the time. We would frequently look up at the time capsule and think about the day that we were going to open it. Just seeing their faces again, exactly how I remembered them. I was very surprised to see Tyler Ennis. He brought the dream big message back to the students and encouraged them to push themselves and to think about what they could be in the future.
25 years ago, I made a video saying I wanted to play for the Edmonton Oilers when I grew up.
What's your favorite team?
Edmonton Oilers.
So would you like to play for Edmonton in 25 years?
Yeah.
Very cool to see someone who I guess is regarded as a hometown hero. He talked about how maybe he was told before that he might not be tall enough for the NHL, and through a lot of practice and determination, he achieved his goals. It's a full circle moment. It felt a lot like being a student again.
Tyler had played hundreds of games and for 4 NHL teams before he finally came home and put on that Oiler jersey. From all of us on The National, thanks for being with us. I'm Ian Hannamansing in Vancouver. You can join me on CBC News Network weeknights at 7. See you then.